All right, y'all, just leaving the gym here. Fantastic lift today. But, again, I'm just thinking about why does everybody these days seem to think that deadlifting doesn't build muscle? It's the most ridiculous dichotomy, false dichotomy that, I'm not training for strength, I'm training for muscle, so I don't deadlift. And, as if training for strength and muscle aren't related in any fashion, That's the crazy thing about it. And people seem to think that they can just build all the muscle that they could potentially build, reach their muscular potential without ever getting any stronger. And it's just completely ridiculous because, the sad news, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to have to get a lot stronger than you are if you want to reach your muscular potential. It's just the way it is. So the idea that, I don't deadlift because, that's for strength, right? It doesn't, I'm training for muscle. It's completely ridiculous because, one, everybody knows that deadlifting releases more testosterone, right? So we all know what testosterone does. It helps you build muscle, okay? So anything you can do within the limits of, natural compounds, natural things, anything you can do to increase your test is going to help you build muscle. So, it's just this very strange thing. And then, you also have to think about when you get stronger, that helps you progress in your lifts. When you progress in your lifts, that's called progressive overload. And when you do progressive overload, that makes you build muscle, right? So people seem to think that, strength and muscle are just two completely separate things. When in reality, especially for beginners and novices and intermediates, those two paths are entwined. They're basically the same path. There's basically no optimization needed until you reach a pretty high level of strength and muscle, right? So, and I'm not talking about, deadlifting for 2 reps or, I like to do a heavy single when I'm warming up, right? I warm up to a top single and then I back down to a working set of at least 5, but that single isn't a 1 rep max. It's more like 95% of a 1 rep max. And the reason I do it is, there's a couple reasons. The main one being that it's psychological, right? So if you pull a heavier weight for 1 rep, now when you go to do your set of 5 on a lighter weight, that weight is just gonna feel lighter. It's just psychologically better, right? You just lifted a heavier weight. When you pick up, that, like, let's say you deadlift, 495 for 1, Now when you do your 455 for 5, that 455 is gonna feel very light, lighter than it would if you just started, you worked up, warmed up, and then you're like, okay, 455 for 5. No, that 495 for 1 is gonna make your 455 just feel better. And mentally it's better when you approach the bar. And, that's what it's all about. That's why I do that top single, right? And it also just, it gets you acclimated with a heavier weight. So that when you add weight in the future, like, oh, I've already lifted 495, so one day when you go to do 495 for 5, it's not going to seem like a big deal, right? So, that's why I do it. But the whole thing is that there's really no meaningful difference between strength and muscle as long as, you're operating within a 5+ rep range for your working sets. There's no meaningful difference. Like, you're training for both strength and muscle. You need the strength to progress in your lifts. And, don't just say, oh, well, I'll just add reps. Adding a rep is getting stronger, right? You can utilize any freely available strength calculator to see that if you add a rep, that means that your 1 rep would go up too. So, your overall strength is therefore increased. But, there's just no reason to act like, deadlifts are just completely not needed, or, they're not needed necessarily, but they're really good. They're really a powerful tool that you can use because you get stronger at your deadlift. You know what that does? That makes you stronger on your rows, right? That makes your hamstrings stronger for all of your hamstring movements. It makes your quads stronger, right? So it makes your hack squat stronger. It makes your back squat stronger. Now, a back squat in my experience, isn't going to increase the strength of your deadlift, but your deadlift is going to, it's going to help with, like I said, your rows. It's going to help with, your bicep curls even. So, any way you can increase your strength, and especially if you can do it with one exercise, you can increase your strength across a bunch of other different exercises. All that does is unlock more progressive overload, more progression in your lifts. And that progression, that is the number one factor that makes you build muscle, progressive overload. That is the driving factor. So there's nothing else really, getting a better squeeze and a better stretch and a slower eccentric, that's not making you, that's not going to drive muscle building, right? It's just not going to build muscle. Your body builds muscle to adapt to the stresses that you're putting it under, right? And you're not really increasing the stress much by just, messing with the way you do your reps, and you are to a degree, but it's a lot smaller than, doing a heavier weight, doing more reps, progressing in your lifts, and guys, this is simple. This is like the most basic thing. We've known about progressive overload for decades, right? So there's no need to try to, complicate and make it so fancy, like you need some type of PhD, to learn how to put some muscle on. A bunch of, freaking high school dropout meatheads knew this decades ago, right? And that's not to say that there's no advancements, but guys, the formula it's simple, it's known, and really you do have to get stronger one way or another. And if you don't think you have to get stronger and you're not getting stronger, you're going to hit a wall. You're not going to get any bigger. You're not going to build more muscle, right? You're going to be just stuck in purgatory, where you're not really going anywhere. You're going into the gym, you're putting in all this effort, and the progress is, basically non-existent, little if any progress being achieved. So, you got to think about this stuff. Make sure you're progressing in your lifts, and don't be afraid to deadlift, because again, it's a great tool that will unlock so much hypertrophy for you. In fact, because of that, it may be one of the greatest muscle builders, not just because of the muscle you build directly from the deadlift itself, but from all of the strength you gain in your other related lifts that, now you're going to progress in those lifts, and that additional stress you put your muscles under because of that new strength you have, that's what's going to make you bigger. So don't fall for the hypertrophy versus strength, two camp false dichotomy. It's just a complete load of crap. All it is to try to get you to buy people's programs, to buy their supplements, to use their affiliate links, because they're shoving this crap down your throat. And you should know that when you see, you go to their channel and the first freaking thing they're doing is trying to shove some affiliate marketing down your throat and, trying to sell you some freaking program, trying to shill you their crap when it's really nothing new. It's not any better than what we already know.